He fed two hungry alien sisters, but what they did next took him by surprise. Each step was careful, measured, because this part of the forest was known for its unusual wildlife. Venomous plants and unpredictable predators were not just stories the colony elders told. They were warnings, proven by the faint traces of claw marks and broken branches he noticed along the trail. Marcus had been sent here by the human colony for a single purpose: study the local ecosystem and document the alien flora and fauna. He had always loved exploration, but nothing in his training had prepared him for the intensity of Viridian. The forest was alive in ways humans rarely encountered. Vines seemed to move subtly, flowers emitted soft light even during the day, and the air was thick with the scent of strange, sweet fruits that Marcus had been sampling cautiously for weeks. Today, however, his attention was drawn not by plants but by a faint, unusual sound. At first he thought it was the wind rustling the leaves, but then the noise grew more distinct. A soft, melodic cry, almost like singing but urgent and distressed. Marcus froze, scanning the area. His heart beat faster. He had been alone for hours and the forest could be dangerous, but curiosity pushed him forward. He followed the sound carefully, stepping over twisted roots and ducking under low-hanging branches. Finally, he reached a small clearing where his eyes widened in surprise. There, struggling in a crude snare made of thick vines, were two alien figures. They were humanoid in shape, roughly the size of humans, but their skin shimmered faintly with a pearlescent glow. Their large, expressive eyes reflected the sunlight in shades of blue and green. Delicate antennae protruded from their heads, twitching as they sensed his presence. Their hands were slim, tipped with soft, flexible digits, and their faces bore expressions of fear and confusion. The sisters noticed him immediately. One of them, slightly taller, tilted her head and emitted a series of high-pitched tones. Marcus didn't understand the language, but the emotion was clear: fear, pain, and hunger. Marcus' training kicked in. He carefully approached, hands visible, speaking softly in English. "It's okay, I won't hurt you." He knelt a few feet away, assessing the snare. The vines were strong but not unbreakable. Carefully, he cut through them with his multi-purpose tool. The sisters flinched at the snapping of the vine but didn't run. Once freed, they stumbled slightly, clearly weak from hunger. Marcus reached into his pack and pulled out some protein bars and a small supply of fresh fruits. "Here," he said gently, extending the food. "You must be very hungry." The sisters exchanged quick glances. Their antennae twitched nervously. Finally, after a moment of hesitation, the taller one stepped forward and took a piece of fruit. As soon as she did, a soft glow emanated from her skin and she gasped, a sound of relief or surprise. The smaller sister followed suit, eating cautiously. Marcus watched in fascination. He had read about how some alien species reacted physiologically to certain nutrients, but this was the first time he had witnessed it firsthand. Their glow was subtle but noticeable, as if their bodies were absorbing not just the nutrients but also some kind of energy from the food. "You're safe now," Marcus said, smiling. "I won't let anything hurt you." The sisters didn't respond in words. They didn't know his language, but their posture relaxed slightly. For the next few minutes, Marcus observed them. They ate quickly, their movements elegant and almost graceful. He noticed the younger sister looking around the forest nervously, as if aware of predators that he could not see. When they finished, the taller sister took a cautious step toward him and extended a delicate hand. Marcus smiled and offered his own hand. She touched it briefly, almost like a greeting or a sign of trust, and then pulled back. "Don't worry," Marcus said softly. "I can help you. You don't have to hide." The sisters blinked at him, then exchanged another quick glance. Something passed between them, a silent understanding. They were not just grateful for the food, they were aware of his intentions. He was different from other humans they must have encountered. He had not tried to capture them, hurt them, or drive them away. He had simply offered help. As Marcus prepared to leave the clearing, the sisters suddenly darted back into the trees with a speed and agility that left him momentarily stunned. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, leaving only the faint shimmer of their glow in the forest. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. He had expected gratitude, perhaps cautious curiosity, but not this sudden, almost magical disappearance. He followed at a careful distance, navigating the twisting paths and listening to the subtle sounds of the forest. After a short while, he reached a small stream. The sisters were there, crouched near the water, drinking and observing him with those large, luminous eyes. Marcus realized they were not afraid now, they were curious. "You can stay," he said quietly, settling himself on a nearby rock. "I won't harm you, I promise." The taller sister stepped closer, her antennae flicking in patterns Marcus had no way of interpreting. Then, in a movement so fast it took him a second to register, she reached out and touched a stone near his foot. The stone shimmered faintly, glowing with a light similar to the one from their skin. Marcus' eyes widened. You can do that," he whispered. The sisters didn't answer in words, of course, but their glowing intensified briefly, as if acknowledging his surprise. For hours, Marcus sat quietly, observing them. He took careful notes, documenting their reactions to the environment, the way they interacted with each other, and the subtle changes in their physiology after eating. He realized that this was more than a chance encounter. These beings were extraordinary, and his act of feeding them had opened a door, one he could not yet understand. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows through the forest, Marcus stood and stretched. "I should get back," he said softly. "But I'll come back tomorrow. I promise I'll bring more food." The sisters watched him leave. The taller one emitted a soft tone, almost musical, and Marcus had the strange sense that she was communicating something profound, though he couldn't comprehend the language. Perhaps it was a message of trust, or perhaps a warning. He returned to the colony that evening, exhausted but exhilarated. He reported only the basic details to his superiors, careful not to exaggerate. He didn't yet understand the significance of what he had witnessed, but he knew it was important. These beings were intelligent, adaptive, and capable of reactions he had never studied. That night, Marcus lay in his bunk, thinking about the sisters. He remembered the way they had glowed, the way they had moved with purpose, and the silent communication that passed between them. He realized that he had not merely helped two hungry aliens. He had begun a relationship that could change his understanding of life on Viridian, and perhaps the galaxy itself. Somewhere deep in the forest, the sisters watched from a hidden perch. They were not merely observing him. They were studying him, learning about the human who had chosen kindness over fear. And in that quiet moment, Marcus had no idea that his simple act of feeding them would lead to consequences far beyond anything he could imagine. He drifted to sleep with a mixture of excitement and anticipation, unaware that the forest around him seemed to hum with life, responding to the new bond he had created. And as stars began to dot the Viridian sky, Marcus felt, for the first time, that the galaxy was far bigger, stranger, and more beautiful than he had ever imagined. Marcus woke early the next morning, the memory of the two alien sisters still vivid in his mind. The events of the previous day felt unreal, but the subtle glow he had seen lingered in his thoughts like a gentle promise. He packed extra food, protein bars, and fresh fruit, determined to return to the clearing. The forest welcomed him with its usual chorus of strange sounds, whistling leaves, distant bird-like calls, and the soft rustle of unknown creatures moving in the underbrush. Marcus moved carefully, noting every detail, every twisted root and hidden crevice. It took him almost an hour to reach the clearing where he had first met Lyra and Scylla, the two sisters. They were already there. The taller one, Lyra, stepped forward as he approached, her large blue-green eyes fixed on him. Scylla, the smaller sister, stayed slightly behind but watched intently, her antennae twitching with interest. Marcus slowed, kneeling as he had the day before. "Good morning," he said softly. "I brought more food." He placed the fruits and bars gently on the ground. The sisters tilted their heads, studying the offerings. After a moment, Lyra stepped closer, took a piece of fruit, and ate. The glow that had surprised Marcus the day before returned, slightly stronger this time. Marcus' eyes widened. "You're still glowing," he murmured. "It's incredible." The sisters didn't speak in words, but their actions conveyed meaning. Lyra's glow pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and she made a series of soft, melodic tones. Marcus realized that this might be their way of communicating, a language based on light and sound rather than words. Curious and careful, Marcus decided to test something. He took a small leaf from the forest floor, one known for its nutritional value to local wildlife, and held it out to Lyra. She sniffed it, then ate it. Almost immediately, her glow intensified, and Marcus noticed subtle changes. Her movements became smoother, and her posture straighter, as if she had regained strength. Scylla mirrored her sister, eating another leaf and glowing softly. Marcus scribbled notes furiously in his notebook. These aliens were extraordinary. Their physiology reacted to nutrients in ways he had never studied. They could absorb energy from food and perhaps even the environment itself. As he observed, he realized something remarkable. Lyra stepped closer and gently touched his arm. The moment her fingers brushed his sleeve, a strange sensation passed through him. Colors seemed brighter, the forest sounds clearer, and his awareness of his surroundings sharpened. It was brief, but unmistakable. "You can do that," Marcus whispered. Lyra's glow pulsed once, slowly, as if acknowledging him. Scylla stepped forward, touching his other arm lightly. Marcus felt a similar effect, this time in his mind, a subtle clarity, a sense of understanding that he couldn't explain. Marcus leaned back, astonished. These beings were not only intelligent but had abilities far beyond what humans could naturally do. They were teaching him something, not with words but through touch, light, and presence. For hours, Marcus stayed with them, offering food, observing, and learning. He realized the forest itself seemed to respond to the sisters' presence. Flowers turned toward them, and small creatures paused as they moved, showing respect or recognition. Marcus made careful mental notes, aware that this relationship could change humanity's understanding of alien life. As the sun climbed higher, a distant rustling caught his attention. Marcus tensed, scanning the forest. A large predator with a sleek, dark body and glowing eyes slinked through the trees. Marcus froze, unsure how to react, but the sisters did not panic. Lyra stepped forward, emitting a low hum, and the predator paused. Marcus noticed the creature's eyes flicker and then retreat into the shadows. Marcus blinked. "You controlled it?" he asked softly. Lyra and Scylla exchanged glances, then pulsed their glow in a synchronized pattern. Marcus realized they had not just avoided danger, they had protected him. The sisters were teaching him not only their abilities but also how to survive in this forest. By mid-afternoon, Marcus suggested a break. He sat near the stream, observing the sisters as they explored their surroundings. He noticed subtle interactions he had missed before. Lyra would touch certain plants, and they would emit light or vibrate. Scylla seemed to sense the flow of water, moving instinctively to test its depth and purity. The sisters were connected to their environment in ways humans could barely understand. Marcus spoke quietly. "You're amazing," he said. "I've never seen anything like this. I want to learn from you if you'll let me." Lyra tilted her head, glowing softly. She stepped closer and brushed her fingers against a stone near Marcus. The stone pulsed with energy, almost like a heartbeat. Marcus realized she was offering him a gift, a way to experience the forest as she did. He touched the stone, and suddenly his senses expanded. He could feel the subtle vibrations of the ground. hear the movement of insects deep in the underbrush, and see faint trails of energy flowing through the plants. "It's incredible," Marcus whispered. "I can feel everything." Scylla joined, touching his arm gently. A warm sensation spread through him, and he understood in a way words could not express the harmony of life in the forest. Marcus realized that these sisters were offering him a choice, not just to survive, but to truly understand this alien world. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of discovery. Marcus explored the forest with them, learning to interpret their glow, their tones, and the subtle signs of the environment. He discovered edible plants, hidden water sources, and areas of the forest that were rich in nutrients. The sisters guided him safely, teaching him without speaking a single word. As evening approached, Marcus and the sisters returned to the clearing. He was exhausted but exhilarated. The sisters sat quietly, their glow softening as the light of the setting sun filtered through the canopy. Marcus realized that he had not just helped them, they had begun to teach him, revealing secrets of the forest that no human had ever known. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I don't know how to repay you." Lyra stepped forward and touched his chest lightly. Marcus felt a gentle pulse like a heartbeat, and suddenly he understood something profound. They did not need repayment in human terms. Trust, kindness, and mutual respect were enough. Scylla touched his hand, and Marcus felt a sense of calm wash over him. He realized that the sisters were not just intelligent, they were wise. Their society must value connection and understanding far beyond human measures. Night fell, and the forest glowed softly under the light of Viridian's twin moons. Marcus settled near the stream, careful not to disturb the sisters. He watched them move gracefully through the clearing, their glow blending with the luminescent plants around them. He felt a deep sense of awe. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt that he was not alone in the galaxy. He was part of something greater, a connection between species that went beyond fear or survival. The simple act of feeding these two sisters had opened a door to understanding, trust, and knowledge he could never have imagined. As he drifted to sleep, Marcus felt the sisters' presence nearby. Their glow pulsed gently in the darkness, a silent promise that this was only the beginning. Tomorrow he would return. And when he did, he knew that the forest, the sisters, and the knowledge they offered would change his life, and perhaps humanity's place in the universe, forever. In the quiet of the night, the sisters exchanged soft tones, their lights flickering in patterns that Marcus could not yet understand. They had been hungry, weak, and vulnerable, but through a simple act of kindness, Marcus had gained their trust. And now they were preparing to reveal the first of many surprises that the galaxy had in store for him. Somewhere deep in the forest, unseen by Marcus, other creatures watched. Not all were friendly. The forest was alive and it had its own rules. But for tonight, Marcus and the sisters were safe. And in that safety, a bond was forming, one that would change both human and Virelian futures in ways no one could predict. Marcus returned to the forest before dawn. The colony was still quiet when he left, most people asleep, unaware that something important was unfolding beyond the safety of their metal walls. He carried more food than before, his pack heavier with fruit, preserved meals, and nutrient packs he hoped would be safe for the sisters. His steps were faster now, more confident, guided by a growing familiarity with the forest paths. The forest felt different today. It was not hostile, but it was alert. Marcus sensed it even before he reached the clearing. The air seemed charged, the faint glow of plants brighter than usual. He paused, closing his eyes for a moment, and focused on what the sisters had shown him. Slowly, carefully, he listened, not just with his ears but with his awareness. Movement, energy, life. When he opened his eyes, he smiled softly. "I'm learning," he whispered to himself. Lyra and Scylla were waiting for him. They stood at the edge of the clearing, their forms gently glowing in the dim morning light. When they saw him, Their glow brightened in a way Marcus now understood as recognition. Scylla moved first, stepping closer, her antennae flicking in quick, excited patterns. Lyra followed, calm and steady, watching Marcus closely. "I brought more food," Marcus said quietly, kneeling and setting the pack down. "And I'm ready to listen." The sisters approached without fear. They ate together, sharing the food in a way that showed deep trust between them. Marcus noticed how carefully they balanced their portions, never taking more than they needed. The glow from their skin spread outward, softly illuminating the clearing. When they finished, Lyra turned and looked deeper into the forest. She made a low, resonant tone, different from the sounds Marcus had heard before. Scylla responded, and together they began walking away from the clearing. Marcus hesitated only a second before following. They led him through narrow paths hidden by hanging vines and thick foliage. Several times, Marcus would have walked straight into danger, unstable ground, sharp plants, hidden nests. But each time, one of the sisters warned him with a light pulse or a gentle touch. Slowly, he realized they were not just guiding him physically. They were teaching him how to see. After nearly an hour of walking, the forest opened into a vast, hidden valley. Marcus stopped in awe. The valley was alive with light. Tall, tree-like structures grew in graceful spirals, their surfaces smooth and faintly glowing. Between them were pools of clear water, flowing gently without visible sources. The ground was covered in soft, living moss that responded to movement, brightening slightly with each step. "This is your home," Marcus whispered. Lyra turned to him. She placed her hand over her chest, then extended it toward the valley. Scylla did the same. Marcus understood. This was not just a shelter. It was a sanctuary. They walked deeper inside. Marcus noticed shapes moving among the structures, other Virelians. Some paused to observe him, their eyes curious but not afraid. Wordlessly, the sisters reassured them. No alarms were raised. No weapons appeared. For the first time, Marcus fully understood the weight of what was happening. They had brought a human into their hidden home. Lyra led him to a smooth stone platform near one of the pools. She gestured for him to sit. Marcus did, placing his pack beside him. The sisters sat across from him, their glow steady and calm. Lyra reached out and touched his forehead lightly. The world shifted. Marcus gasped as sensations flooded his mind, not overwhelming but deep. Images formed not as pictures but as understanding. He felt the long history of the Virelians, their bond with the forest, their fear of outsiders who took without giving, their belief that life was strongest when shared, not controlled. Tears filled Marcus' eyes. "I understand," he whispered. "You hid because you had to." "Humans, we don't always listen." Scylla touched his hand. Warmth spread through him and another understanding came. They were not blaming humanity as a whole. They were judging individuals by actions, not species. Marcus laughed softly through the emotion. "That's fair." Hours passed as the sisters showed him more. They guided him through the valley, teaching him how the Virelians cultivated food without damaging the land, how they healed injuries by encouraging the body's natural balance, how they stored knowledge not in machines, but in living memory shared across generations. Marcus took no notes. He didn't need to. The lessons stayed with him, but peace never lasted forever. The first warning came as a sharp shift in the forest's energy. Marcus felt it before he saw it. The moss beneath his feet dimmed. The air grew heavy. Lyra froze. Her glow turned sharp and bright, pulsing in warning. Scylla's posture changed, her body tense. Marcus followed their gaze to the far edge of the valley. Shapes moved there, tall, armored, artificial. Marcus' stomach dropped. "They found you," he whispered. The intruders were not Virelians. Their armor was angular, lifeless, designed for control rather than harmony. They moved aggressively, scanning the valley with devices that hummed with unnatural energy. Raiders. Marcus had heard rumors in the colony. Groups that hunted rare species, selling them or exploiting their abilities. He had never believed they would dare enter such a dangerous forest. Lyra turned to Marcus. She placed both hands on his shoulders. Her message was clear. This was dangerous. He could leave now. Marcus swallowed. Every instinct told him to run. He was human, fragile, outmatched. But then he remembered two hungry sisters trapped in a snare. He remembered glowing hands offering trust. He remembered the forest teaching him how to listen. "No," Marcus said firmly. "I'm not leaving." Lyra searched his face. Then slowly she nodded. Scylla moved quickly, signaling others. The Violins began to vanish into the environment, blending with light and foliage. The valley seemed empty in seconds. Marcus remained. The raiders advanced, weapons raised. One of them spotted Marcus and laughed through a distorted speaker. A human didn't expect that. Marcus raised his hands calmly. "You don't belong here," the raider scoffed. "We belong wherever profit exists." Before Marcus could respond, the forest answered. Roots rose from the ground, not violently but firmly, blocking paths. Light flared from the trees, blinding sensors. The raiders fired blindly, shouting in confusion. Marcus didn't move. He felt the forest flow through him just as the sisters had taught. He spoke calmly, clearly. "Leave, you're outmatched." One raider turned his weapon on Marcus. The moment stretched. Then Lyra appeared beside Marcus, her glow brilliant and focused. Scylla stood on his other side. The air vibrated with power, not destructive but absolute. The raiders froze. Fear replaced greed. They retreated, stumbling, dragging their equipment behind them. The forest parted just enough to let them escape, then closed again, sealing the valley. Silence returned. Marcus exhaled shakily. Lyra touched his arm, steadying him. Scylla smiled, a small, genuine expression Marcus recognized now. "You protected them," Marcus said quietly. "You trusted me." Lyra placed her hand over his heart again. This time the message was clear and strong. He was no longer just a visitor. He was an ally. As the valley's light slowly returned to normal, Marcus knew his life had changed forever. He could never go back to being just a scientist collecting data. He had crossed a line, not of danger but of responsibility. The forest had accepted him, and somewhere beyond the valley, forces were already moving, drawn by whispers of what humanity and the Violins might become together. Marcus looked up at the glowing canopy and smiled, even as uncertainty loomed ahead. Whatever came next, he would face it with open eyes and an open heart. Marcus woke with the first light of Viridian's twin suns, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today would be different. Lyra and Scylla had not only shown him the secrets of their forest but had hinted at something even greater. They had guided him with food, touch, and light, but now it seemed they were ready to reveal more, their home, their people, and the full extent of their abilities. As Marcus packed his small bag, he noticed the sisters waiting at the edge of the clearing. Lyra's glow pulsed steadily, and Scylla's antennae twitched in anticipation. Marcus approached slowly, careful not to startle them. "I'm ready," he said softly. Lyra emitted a series of low, melodic tones and stepped forward, gesturing for him to follow. The forest was different today. Marcus could sense the energy flowing through it more clearly than ever before, thanks to the subtle enhancements the sisters had shown him the day before. He moved with more confidence, noticing hidden paths, small creatures, and plants that glowed faintly beneath the canopy. Every step felt like part of a larger pattern, as if the forest itself was guiding him. After an hour of walking, the sisters led Marcus to a hill covered in dense vegetation. As they climbed, the canopy opened to reveal a hidden valley bathed in soft light. Marcus stopped in awe. The valley was filled with bioluminescent plants of every color, glowing softly in shades of blue, green, and gold. Towering trees curved into natural structures, forming what looked like buildings, bridges, and platforms. It was as if the forest itself had been shaped into a living city. Marcus turned to the sisters, astonished. This is incredible." Lyra pulsed her glow in what Marcus instinctively felt was a gesture of pride. Scylla darted ahead, moving gracefully along a natural bridge made of intertwined branches. Marcus followed, careful not to stumble. The sisters were leading him deeper into their world, a place humans had never seen. They reached a central clearing where more of their kind were gathered. The aliens varied in size and color, but all shared the same luminous glow and delicate, expressive features. The newcomers watched Marcus cautiously, their large eyes studying him with curiosity. Lyra stepped forward, and the others seemed to recognize her. They emitted tones and pulses of light, a conversation Marcus could not yet understand. Marcus realized that he was being introduced to an entire community. He felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. These beings had been wary of humans before, and here he was, a complete outsider. Yet Lyra and Scylla had vouched for him, and that seemed to carry weight. One of the older Violins approached, taller and with a deeper glow. Marcus felt a sense of calm as the alien extended a hand toward him, touching his shoulder lightly. A warm sensation spread through him, similar to the enhancements he had felt before, and he sensed acceptance. The elder led him to a platform made of interwoven branches and glowing vines. Marcus noticed symbols carved into the natural wood, pulsing softly with energy. He realized that this was a place of learning, a center of knowledge. Lyra and Scylla guided him to a spot in the center, and he settled down, eager to understand what would come next. The elder began a series of gestures and pulses of light. Marcus watched carefully, trying to interpret the patterns. He noticed that when he focused on the sequences, his mind seemed to absorb the information more easily. The Violins were not using words. They were transmitting knowledge directly through energy, light, and subtle touch. Marcus felt a sense of clarity, understanding concepts he had never studied, about plants, the flow of energy, and the interconnectedness of all life in the forest. Hours passed, and Marcus learned more than he thought possible. The Violins taught him about the medicinal properties of plants, ways to enhance growth, and methods to detect danger before it arrived. They showed him how to sense subtle shifts in the forest, identifying predators, changes in weather, and even the movement of other humans from the colony at a distance. Marcus realized that he was gaining a new perspective on life, one that went beyond human understanding. The sisters' initial trust and the food he had shared had opened a door not only to their home, but to a way of thinking that valued harmony, observation, and patience. As the suns began to set, casting long shadows across the glowing valley, Marcus felt a sudden shift in the air. A low vibration ran through the ground, and he sensed movement in the forest beyond the valley. The Violins stiffened, their glows flickering with urgency. Lyra and Scylla moved closer to him, their antennae flicking nervously. Marcus' heart quickened. He had learned to sense danger, but this felt different, closer, more immediate. He followed the subtle signs, realizing that something or someone was approaching the valley. A group of unknown aliens emerged from the forest, taller and darker than the Violins, their eyes glinting with hostility. Marcus felt a jolt of fear. Lyra stepped forward, pulsing her glow, and the others followed. Marcus realized that the Violins were preparing to defend their home, but he also understood that they valued life and preferred to avoid unnecessary conflict. The tension was palpable, the air charged with energy. Marcus took a deep breath. He had learned much from these beings, but now he would need to put his knowledge into practice. He followed Lyra and Scylla, moving through the valley and setting subtle traps using the natural energy of the forest. Vines twisted to block paths, plants emitted bright flashes to distract, and Marcus realized he was coordinating with the Violins without words. The approaching group paused, sensing resistance. Lyra and Scylla's glow intensified, pulsing in synchronized patterns. Marcus felt the energy flowing through him, guiding his actions. He realized that the sisters were not only protecting their home, but teaching him the true meaning of trust and cooperation. The raiders advanced, but Marcus and the Violins were ready. Using the knowledge he had absorbed, Marcus manipulated the forest to create barriers and safe paths, guiding the Violins' energy to confuse and deter the intruders. The raiders stumbled, confused by the glowing forest and the coordinated defense. Marcus felt a rush of exhilaration. He was not just an observer anymore. He was part of this community, using what he had learned to protect it. The sisters moved gracefully, their glow bright and commanding, and Marcus mirrored their actions, feeling a unity he had never experienced before. After what felt like hours, the raiders retreated, overwhelmed by the coordinated display of power and intelligence. Marcus and the Violins watched as the forest returned to its peaceful state. The sisters' glow softened, their antennae relaxing. Marcus felt a deep sense of relief and pride. The elder approached him, touching his shoulder again. Marcus felt the warmth of acceptance and respect. He realized that he had earned a place among the Violins, not through force, but through trust, learning, and cooperation. Lyra and Scylla pulsed their glow, acknowledging his courage and understanding. As night fell, the valley glowed softly under the light of the moons. Marcus sat quietly with the sisters, reflecting on the day's events. He realized that the simple act of feeding them had led to this, an opportunity to learn, grow, and protect. The bond they shared was stronger than fear, suspicion, or even danger. For the first time, Marcus felt that humans could truly connect with alien life, not through conquest or fear, but through kindness, respect, and understanding. The sisters had shown him a world beyond human perception, a world where trust and cooperation created strength greater than any weapon. Marcus knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries and dangers, but also opportunities for connection and learning. He had witnessed the power of simple acts of kindness and the extraordinary outcomes they could create. As he settled near the stream to rest, Marcus felt the sisters' presence nearby. Their glow pulsed softly in the darkness, a reminder that trust, courage, and compassion were the greatest strengths one could have. The forest seemed to hum in approval, and Marcus felt a deep sense of belonging. He looked up at the stars twinkling through the canopy and whispered, "Thank you, Lyra and Scylla, for everything." The sisters' glow pulsed in response, a silent promise that they would continue to guide, teach, and protect him. And in that moment, Marcus knew that humanity's understanding of life in the galaxy had changed forever, simply because he had fed two hungry alien sisters and shown them trust and kindness. The night passed peacefully, with the valley alive with soft glows and gentle sounds. Marcus drifted to sleep, dreaming of the adventures, discoveries, and lessons yet to come. He was no longer just a human visitor. He was a part of something greater, a connection between species, a bridge of trust, and a story that would inspire generations to come. He fed two hungry alien sisters, but what they did next took him by surprise.